Brand nerds, brand nerds, brand nerds. There's a difference between family and family. And today, brand nerds, you are going to be treated to family.
Yes.
One of our old bosses, Larry, and I had a quote that over time it aged really well, and I appreciated it over time. But the first time he said it, I didn't appreciate it. In fact, I didn't even like it. And the quote that he posited was, "Marketing is too important to be left to the marketers." Let me drop that on y'all again, brand nerds. Marketing is too important to be left to the marketers. This may sound counterintuitive, but it's exactly right. It's exactly right. I might extend that to say that great marketing can be done by great minds, not necessarily people who grew up in marketing. Our next guest, LT, did not grow up in the marketing profession. This is a lawyer by training, has led organizations, and then made a serious transition into marketing. And brand nerds, I was there to see it all. Okay? I was there to see the whole thing. And I'll tell you, LT, there were meetings that I was in with our next guest. This is when she was on the legal side, the general counsel side of things corporately. And so she would accompany us into meetings where we had agencies and we were talking about contracts and deals that we were going to do, maybe with some sports properties or with some celebrities. And I recall being in these meetings, Larry, listening to her question, and I would be thinking to myself, and brand nerds right now, the producers don't like us to age our shows by citing things that are going on, so you can.
But DC always does it.
But I always do it anyway. I always do it anyway. So right now, King Charles is in America visiting the country and the White House and that kind of thing. So I want to make certain that I get this next statement I'm going to say. This is what I used to think when our next guest would ask questions. I want to do this in the Queen's English. In the Queen's English, I would say, "That ain't no legal question, okay? That's a brand and marketing question coming from this person over here. Who that be over there?" In the Queen's English, and I was impressed by her questions because I thought, these are questions by someone who is interested in understanding human behavior as it relates to a deal, as it relates to a strategy, as it relates to an execution. And so today, brand nerds, you're going to be treated to the insights of family on another level. LT, tell the peoples who we have in the building today.
DC, we've been looking forward to this one. We have Lacrecia Cade in the house today. Welcome, Lacrecia.
Thank you. I am so happy to see my friends and my family on this call.
Yes. We're so happy to have you. And again, brand nerds, as DC alluded to and Lacrecia just said, the full disclosure is DC and I have really been in the marketing trenches, I would say, with Lacrecia. And while we have wanted to have her on the podcast for a long time, this is the right time. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Look, right, D, it's the right time.
No question.
Yeah. Lacrecia is an Atlanta native who attends American University in DC for undergrad, where she earns her degree in communications, economics, and government. After graduation, she goes on to law school at William and Mary, where she earns her law degree, her JD degree.
I'm sorry, Larry. Can I just say something real quick?
Sure.
Okay. Larry brand nerds just mentioned that Lacrecia is from Atlanta. And that's correct, because Atlanta is a city, and everybody from Atlanta who grew up in Atlanta is legitimately an AT alien. But then there are people from subsets within Atlanta, and they hit a little different. And if I'm not mistaken, Lacrecia is from Decatur, where it's greater.
That's right.
Okay. So I just wanted to clarify the Atlanta versus the Decatur of it all.
I'm straight out the deck.
Straight out.
That's
Okay.
right.
Straight out the deck. Okay.
Mhm.
Larry, get us back on track, brother.
Okay. That was a good place to interrupt you. That was all good. So post law school, Lacrecia spends the first 11 years, as DC alluded to in his intro, moving up the ranks at law firms, where the last law firm she works at is Taylor Duma, and while there, she also is the founding president for the Louisiana Association of Black Women Attorneys. It is now 2013, and Lacrecia is offered a special opportunity to become general counsel and chief compliance officer from Morehouse College, the renowned HBCU in Lacrecia's said hometown of Atlanta. After 2 years there, Lacrecia is also elevated to chief of staff. With Lacrecia's leadership, the team at Morehouse modernizes the 150-year-old legacy brand, balancing their heritage stewardship with a contemporary design system that is still in place more than a decade later. Additionally, Lacrecia orchestrates a multi-stakeholder change, establishing a new operating model, enabling capital investment and elevated student, faculty, alumni, and partner experiences. At this point, Lacrecia takes an interesting pivot and joins our friends at Aflac as head of their internal operations team, where, reporting to the Deputy General Counsel, she leads a team of attorneys and professional staff supporting marketing, sales, product, and operations. That's what DC was alluding to in his intro. After successfully doing this for 2 years, the folks at Aflac offer Lacrecia an opportunity to fully dive in as a marketer, becoming head of B2B marketing and integration, where she re-centralizes and modernizes B2B marketing to support a national agent and broker network. Additionally, Lacrecia strengthens product marketing, sales enablement, and channel performance across the Aflac diverse multi-billion-dollar supplemental insurance portfolio. It is now 2021, and Lacrecia is tapped on the shoulder for a really cool opportunity, and that is to join Atlanta Life Insurance Company as their president. For those who don't know the background for Atlanta Life Insurance Company, Alonzo F. Herndon, a formerly enslaved man, founded Atlanta Life in 1905 after observing families lacking the savings to bury their lost loved ones. The company went on to become a vehicle for protection, generational financial security, and career employment for the country's most at-risk citizens. As president, Lacrecia leads the transformation from a declining legacy B2C model to a trusted B2B partner for carriers, insurers, and reinsurers, including exiting non-viable legacy operations. She, of course, owns the P&L and reports to the board of directors, setting enterprise strategy, building the executive team, and driving growth across sales and partnerships. As Lacrecia fully bakes in those successful changes, Atlanta Life is acquired. Soon after that, Lacrecia is then recruited into Fortune 500 company Fiserv by the Fiserv CMO Shannon Watkins, and Lacrecia becomes their global head of strategy, marketing, operations, and insights. Couple items to clarify for you brand nerds first. Number one, Fiserv company name is short for financial services and is not the drug company Pfizer. Fiserv is currently 208 on the 2026 Fortune 500 list. Shannon Watkins was number two. Shannon Watkins was a previous guest for us on this said program, Album 3, Track 18, and it's a wonderful episode, brand nerds, if you haven't listened. And at the time was CMO and Chief Brand Officer at Aflac. Shannon later went on to be CMO at the Jordan brand before becoming the CMO at Fiserv. In her position at Fiserv, I'm talking about Lacrecia now, DC and I as consultants with Fiserv have had the great pleasure in working with Lacrecia team, and we have been incredibly impressed with what she and her team have accomplished. Let's tick off just a few items. Number one, piloting integrated growth engine across account-based marketing, and the acronym there, brand nerds, is ABM. Digital channels, strategic communications, experiential marketing, and sales enablement powered by technology and cross-functional alignment. Number two, spearheading Fiserv's transition to a branded house, rationalizing legacy brands, preserving brand equity, and instituting enterprise governance and standard operations procedures for M&A-driven brand integration. Number three, developing and defining disruptive brand positioning for the Clover POS brand in a highly competitive category which did wonders in terms of strengthening unaided awareness in supporting growth, retention, and cross-sell through close partnerships with product and sales. And number 4, shifting demand strategy to full funnel model, improving cost per lead and sales qualified leads through channel-specific storytelling and consistent visual identity. Given many headwinds, most notably the economy, the work Lacrecia and her team at Fiserv is truly exemplary. Lastly, brand nerds, you should also know Lacrecia is the mom of, as she says, 2 bold and fierce daughters, Courtney and Caitlin, and along with being Lolly, and she can describe what that is, for her grandkids, Nalani, Sienna, and Coda. Welcome to Brands, Beats, and Bytes, Lacrecia Cade.
Wow, like hearing my whole life. That was amazing, Larry. I feel, I'm like, who is this person? So I am shocked. Wow. Thank you.
You did it all.
Larry does such a wonderful job of that. And what we say, Lacrecia, is that most people, when words are being said like this, it's usually an obit. Usually. And what we do at Brands, Beats, and Bytes is ensure that our guests, they get their flowers when they can hear it, smell it, taste it. It just, all the vibrancy that is one's career. And Lacrecia, you, like others, when I'm watching you listen to what's being said about you from Larry, it's almost as if you all are sitting there going, is that me? Are they saying that about me? Is that somebody? Like, what? Like, you're taking the journey along with the listeners. That's super dope. Super dope. All right, Lacrecia. We are going to the Get Comfy section. And normally, I only do 1. But I'm going to give you 2, and you can merge them, or you can handle them separately.
Okay.
I'm a girl dad. I've got 3 daughters, and I am soon going to be a girl granddad, God willing. God willing, everything goes safely. I'll be soon a girl granddad. And I'm seeing here, and I heard Larry mention Lolly. I want to be called Baba, West African and African, and it's roots, but more West African. So, but anyway, I'm getting to the question here. You worked at Morehouse. You've worked at Aflac. You've worked at Fiserv. You are a lawyer. So you've been in some pretty heady spaces. For example, at Morehouse, for the brand nerds who may not know, because we've got listeners in more than 100 countries, they may not know that there's a saying with Morehouse. And I'm going to give the first part of the saying, and then Lacrecia is going to finish the saying. And here's what is said about Morehouse, the men of Morehouse. They say, you can always tell a Morehouse man, but
you can't tell him much.
But you can't tell him much. All right. So this is true. This is true. Here's where I'm going. Lacrecia, as a Black woman, being in spaces like Morehouse, general counsel, going into marketing at Fiserv at a high level, SVP level, being the president of Atlanta Life, what is it like for you when you show up and you are mostly dealing with men, mostly dealing with powerful men, and you got to make decisions and make moves? How have you handled that, and what advice would you give to our brand nerds who need to hear that? That's the first question, but let me give you the second question. The second question is, Lacrecia, you didn't start in marketing, as Larry has outlined through your experience. For those who are not in marketing, but just have a hankering to get into marketing, but they're just not sure, Lacrecia. They're like, I've invested so much time being, I'm making it up, an engineer, but I just have a love for marketing, but it's not my background. How can I make the transition so you can merge them or independently handle them? The floor is yours.
Well, a really good questions, and I probably will merge them because I think there's a lot of synergy between the answers and the questions.
Mhm.
Um, I grew up in Decatur, where it's greater. But I was bused to school most of my life. I was part of the majority to minority busing program, right?
Okay.
Where I lived in a majority Black neighborhood, but I was bused to a majority white neighborhood from the third grade until I was in the ninth grade. So I grew up in an environment where I was often the only. And that
Mm.
caused me to develop a lot of skills. I call them my chameleon skills of being able to shapeshift, right? Depending
Mm.
on what environment I was, because I would go to school during the day in a mostly white environment. And then I would come home, where often I didn't feel like, I was enough, right? Like I was the only, I didn't have enough money, I didn't have a big enough house, I didn't have all these things. And then I would come home and then my cousins would tell me I was an Oreo and I talked like I was white and I
Yeah.
wasn't Black enough. And
Yeah.
so there was this constant struggle between those two spaces. But what it did for me was that it built this ability to shapeshift,
Mhm.
right? And to depending on which environment I was in and code switch. My code switching skills developed very early.
Mhm.
I will say that when I went to Morehouse,
Mhm.
which was my first real experience with an historically Black institution. I didn't go to a historically Black college.
Mhm.
Obviously, I grew up in Atlanta. I probably was partying over at on the West Side more
Like
than my mama didn't know I was.
probably,
When my
probably.
mama didn't know I was. But I hadn't been in that environment where I wasn't the only. I had been the only in college, in law school, in law firms. And then I went to this professional environment where everybody was Black. And
Mhm.
not only was it like everybody's Black, but this is like Black excellence,
Oh
right?
yeah.
On
Yeah.
display every
Yeah.
single day.
Mhm.
And so my fear there was like, oh my God, I'm back to I'm not Black enough. Like I'm not good enough.
Mm.
But there was something magical that happened at Morehouse. And I actually wrote an article about this, about my formation as a leader there, where because I was no longer in an environment where I had to negotiate my Blackness, which I had learned how to do very well. I was
Mhm.
excellent at it. I was always at the top of whatever it was. I was the top of my law school class. I was at the top of my law firm entering class. But I was still negotiating my Blackness and my womanness. You put me in an environment where I didn't have to do that every day,
Mm.
and that's how I flourished. That's how I
Mm.
realized
Mm.
you couldn't have told me when I started practicing law that I would ever not be a lawyer, right? Like I
Mhm.
thought I'd be a trial lawyer, litigating big cases in court, having these great oral arguments. But I always had this yearning when I was doing that work in law firms of wanting to understand the businesses of my clients, wanting to
Mhm.
understand, like advise them on the strategy and really, really
Hence
think about.
DC's story, by the way, that he said right up front, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was this yearning inside of me, and I didn't necessarily know what it was until I got there. And I started out as a general counsel, which I was like, this is an amazing opportunity. But I started at one, DC knows how I do. I'll be in a meeting and I would start asking questions. And then people in other areas would come to me and say, I remember one time our head of enrollment management, they were getting ready to redesign like the admissions process. And he's like, you know what? You always ask questions. Your whole purpose in this, I want you to join this team. Your whole job is to question everything that we say and do.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Mm.
sign me up for
I've
that.
been
I'll do that.
thinking you'd say that. Sign me up.
Right. And so, but I slowly started getting more and more non-lawyer things to do, right? Like before I knew it, I was doing all of the executive searches whenever the president needed to hire a new leader. They were going through a big physical rebranding, reshaping the principles of that really got like the definition of a Morehouse man. Somehow I ended up in charge of that, right? Like I just kept taking on these
Mm.
new things, and before I knew it, I was the chief of staff. But that was really where I started to tinker in non-lawyer things. And I'm like,
Mm,
oh, I don't, this lawyering stuff is for the birds.
mm,
But I used the lawyering to get into Aflac.
mm,
Knowing, I knew going into Aflac that I eventually wanted to move into the business, and I shared that, and they were looking for someone who was a business executive first,
mm-hmm.
who happened to understand the law. And so that
Right.
was part of the appeal of why I went there. Um, but I will say that I've been able to, I had this formation at Morehouse that really helped me get comfortable because I wasn't negotiating my blackness every day and who I am and how I roll. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know I'm very clear. I don't do status quo, right? Like if you are looking for somebody who's going to keep the trains running and just, move things along, I'm not your girl. I don't do that. I'm a transformation girl. I got really comfortable in understanding the value of all of those code switching skills and being able to integrate and interact with 50-year-old white men and build strong relationships with them. Many of my mentors to this day would be in that group, and but take that and not allow that to being in those environments to erode my being and who I am, but that I could really show up as my true, authentic self. So, the Decatur comes out, and we call her Decatur Lacrecia. We try to keep her under wraps because she can be a little thuggish at times. Um, but she's there, and I do let her come out when she needs to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just developed this level of comfort in that environment that I then was able to go back into a corporate environment, an environment where I was back to being the only, I'm free. Like there was a freedom. And so I'm sitting in these rooms and I'm in these spaces where I have a level of freedom that I am very clear that I don't have to be here and that you need what I'm bringing to the table versus me feeling like you're giving me access to something because I know my value and I know my worth. And so there's folks who have that yearning for like, there's just, I'm in a job where I'm really learning to do something more creative, something that's more strategic, something that's a little bit different. I would just start taking on little projects, right? Even if it is not necessarily in your job, maybe you are on a board of a nonprofit. Start to do things that are outside of that to really build that skill and show people and test you, even show yourself like what you're capable of. And then you just got to stay ready. You got to stay ready for when the call comes, that when it comes, you can be like, yeah, I'm going to go do that.
That's great stuff.
That is outstanding.
Great stuff. Anything to add?
Outstanding. Larry, anything to add?
No, I thought that I love the way you told that story though, and how what I find interesting is you told this story, Lacrecia. If you stayed in law firms, and again, I believe DC and I believe in the universe has its ways, right? But if you stayed in law firms, you might not have had this yearning because you wouldn't have been exposed to the as much of the business side, but maybe you would have had it in a different way. Who knows, right? But it's interesting as you saw this happening and you saw where your interests were really lying and you followed that instinct to continue going. I thought that was really really super fascinating.
I agree, Larry. For many in careers where it just fits you just have a feeling that the career is home for you. Oftentimes, in those instances, you're not choosing the career is choosing you.
Right.
And that's what happened to Lacrecia. She didn't go to Morehouse with designs of doing less lawyerly things, but the less lawyerly things kept going, hey, Lacrecia,
Yeah.
we want you to come on over here and do some of this. So it's just a wonderful story. I didn't know that background to that depth, Lacrecia. Thanks for sharing that. We
Yes.
appreciate it. All right, we're going to 5 questions. Larry and I go back and forth with a set of 5 questions. I am beginning. Take yourself back, Lacrecia. By the way, y'all, sometimes I call Lacrecia L Boogie. So take yourself back, L Boogie. As far as you like to go back to a branding experience, the first one you had where you just could not get enough of it, could not spend enough time with the brand or the experience or the article, whatever it happens to be, couldn't stop spending time with it. When you spent time with it, you thought, maybe I've been doing this for like 15 minutes, Lacrecia, and it's like, oh, it's been 2.5 hours that I've been involved in this. It just lit up your soul a bit like a first love. What was this brand experience or brand for you?
So this may be a little unconventional kind of answer. So I grew up in Decatur. My parents met in high school and got married. I think my mom was in high school when she got married. She was a senior year of high school, and they were teenage parents with me. But my father started working at a car wash when he was like 15 years old. And for most of my life, my dad worked at the car wash, and then when I was in college, he purchased them and he owned the car washes. But it was a staple of my existence. There were two car washes in Decatur, one on Memorial Drive and one on Candler Road. Okay. And anybody that grew up in Decatur knows about them car washes because they were staples of the community. And then there was one in East Point. So I would say my first real branding experience, and both through the lens of like the physical experience of like what, like when people see the movie Car Wash or you hear that song at the car, that's literally what my life was like. Like that was real. Like I remember when the movie came out and we literally had like a view, like when it came on HBO, we had a viewing party at our house. Like the characters that were in that movie were in my real life, who worked at my dad's car wash. And it was very much like that experience. So I saw it through the lens of a brand experience, of a team, of a culture, of people. Also, like the actual car wash. Like as a kid, that was my favorite thing to do. Like when my mom, we would stop by the car wash on our way home, I'd be like, please just let me ride. Can I just stay in the car? Yeah. And it was the kind, this is back in the day, what we have today for car washes, that didn't exist. This was like you pulled up, you got a ticket, you got out your car, right? And then they pulled your car up and put it on the track, and then it went through the car wash. And I just used to beg and let my dad to let me stay in the car so I could sit. And it was just like, beautiful colors and rainbows and what you'd see when you go through an automatic car wash now. But back then I was a little kid, that was so exciting. And it was such a part of my life and my existence. And I just saw how like they were all, the person who started the car washes, it was called Mr. Twiner's Car Wash. And Twiner's Car Wash was just so ingrained in so much of our life. And then that movie came out and it became a cultural moment. And so every time I hear the song at the car wash,
Rolls Royce, baby.
Yeah, you're right. Like that was just a part of my life. So I would say that was really my first experience. And oddly enough, my father, it was his life, he just told me the other day that when he dies, he wants me to take his ashes and put them back in the car wash. Which I'm not doing.
That's great.
But that's what he said.
That's what he said.
He started out cleaning out the pit when he was 15. So he wants me to drive through, because somebody else owns it now. He wants me to drive through the car wash with his ashes on the hood of my car so that when the stuff starts turning, his ashes will end up in the pit.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's right. Full circle.
Right. Full circle.
Okay.
That's
all
great.
Right. All right. I've never been to Twiner's, and I don't know what it's called today. But when and if you do that, let's hope there's a lot of time before that happens.
Right. Let
me know the name of that car wash so that I never, ever put my car through there. Okay. Just let me know the name. That's all I want to know.
Hello.
That's good. That's good. This it's also, Larry, listening to Lacrecia reminds me of the indelible mark and power of music
Oh yeah.
and branding, because
Yeah.
she not only had the name, she had the caricatures and the characters that aligned with like the real people in her lives and that music.
Rose Royce, who sung that's one of my favorite groups of all time. So I'm totally down with you. You know what I'm also struck with, D,
But
is this is really important, brand nerds. Not every brand can do this, is the experience. Like
yeah,
Lucretia just described the experience, right? And so
yeah,
when you have services like that, because that's what it is, really, you know, there's an experience from the time you pull in to the time you pull out. And we always talk about this, Lucretia, that, you know, and you've been through the brand activation wheel that we've done, right? Like, you know, all of the tiny touch points for that experience really matter. It's really gonna hit you positively or negatively, one or the other. And so as you're thinking, brand nerds, about your brand, and if you have any experiential part components to it, you really need to think about all those details and how it's hitting, you know, whether it's a consumer in B2C, obviously, or a customer in B2B.
Absolutely.
I agree, Larry. I agree. Before we go to the next question, also the power of branding. Lucretia remembers car wash, all of the multi-sensory experience of car wash, then the cultural connections to car wash with the characters and the music. When that's done right, generations later, it can be reprised.
Right.
So generations later, an animated movie called Shark Tale came out.
Hmm.
And I remember Will Smith was one of the characters. Mary J. Blige did a song, and they made they did a reprisal of the car wash song and scene. I think it was called Whale Wash in Shark Tale, and it was the same. It's the same thing. It's
Wow.
same cultural cues separated by 25 years,
Right.
one live action in the movie, the original, and then one animation. This is what happens with branding.
Hmm.
This is what happens. And there's some kid, several kids, dare I say, whose parents who have opened a car wash, they are going to tell the same story that Lacrecia is telling today in the next 5 to 10 years, referencing Shark Tale and
Right.
Whale Wash. It's amazing. It's amazing. All right, Larry. Next question, brother.
Okay, Lucretia, the next question is, who has had or is having the most influence on your career?
Mm. Um, okay, so I have two answers. The first is, you know, our one of our shared loves, Miss Shannon Watkins,
No
Yay,
doubt.
Shannon.
because she gave me an opportunity to step into my natural habitat, I would say,
Right.
of brand and marketing. But you know, it's funny because I say, you know, when she called me and asked me, hey, literally, y'all know how Shannon is. I had been her, she had been my client, right? As her in-house lawyer, she was my client. And she knew that I wanted to move into the business. I had been going, like DC said, with them to meetings. She literally calls me one day. She's like, hey, do you want to run B2B marketing? And I said, sure. Like,
So this is out of the
okay.
blue. You might have had some
Yes.
conversations about your interests, but this,
No, yeah, and we out of the blue.
right.
I said, okay, sure. And we started to talk about it. And as we talked about it, I said, you know, lawyering and marketing are not that dissimilar. They're actually, it's all about influencing people,
Mhm.
right? As a
Mm,
lawyer, you're trying to influence people and drive a particular, you know, outcome for your client. It's the same thing in marketing. You're trying to influence people to buy something. You're just using different tactics, right? And so as I started to put that together and connect, like, okay, particularly we were at Aflac at the time, you know, I had been I was the lawyer for the product development team. I understood how we distributed product. I understood how we administered the product. I understood how we priced the product. I understood all these things
Hmm.
because I had been sitting and looking at it from the lawyer side, that I was able to now, and I had a lot of really deep relationships in the business that I could now leverage because Aflac had a sort of distributed B2B marketing model, and we were trying to re-centralize it. So I was able to use those relationships to go and sort of bring this team back together. And, she gave me an opportunity and a chance that I never could have got that job off the street.
Yeah.
Right.
Ever. Right? Never. And so I am always grateful to her, and always will be. And she's, we met there. People wouldn't know it because, like, she's always my work wife wherever we go. So, the second person I will say, and it's more of a general statement, but I am fortunate that my husband, my partner, has been, great for me. I would say the most important career decision one makes is who you marry
Oh, yeah.
or who you decide to spend your life with. It
Amen.
is one of the most important career
Yes.
decisions
Yeah.
you will make. And I have been very blessed and fortunate to be with a man who supports me as a Black woman who is out here, who's making her own way, who prioritizes my career, who prioritizes my family, and is able to do and balance those. And he's a great sounding board for me. He really helps me, think about things and talk me off ledges,
Hmm.
tell me when I'm wrong,
Hmm.
celebrate me when I'm right, remind me when I am not maybe underestimating my value. That's probably the biggest thing we get into it about is he's like, you not asking for enough money.
Hmm.
You not that understanding your value.
Hmm.
So being my biggest cheerleader, but also my biggest critic.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me, someone said that to me very early in my life, and it was something that stuck with me. That was one of the top career decisions you make.
Ooh,
Who you marry.
that's deep. You haven't said your husband's name, please? We
His
put
name's Michael.
Michael. Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, Dee, no one's we've asked this question a lot. We've had people say their spouse, but the way you put that, Lacrecia,
Yeah.
no one said that before.
No
And
one.
it's really deep because when you have a true life partner like you have in Michael, uh, they're going to shoot it to you straight. They're going to be, like you say, your biggest cheerleader. And they're also going to say, they're going to talk you off the ledge and all the things you just said. And they're going to say when you're dead ass wrong. Right. And so there's huge as our up and coming brand nerds, many of whom are still single. That's something that as you're evaluating your spouse, you should be cognizant of.
Absolutely.
I want to say,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say something about Shannon and
Yes,
why
please.
she came to you, Lacrecia, and asked you to head B2B marketing, and you were like, sure. Um, Wayne Gretzky has a quote, famous, iconic hockey player. Some would say the greatest hockey player of all time, the GOAT. And the quote that's attributed to him is, he doesn't skate to where the puck is, he skates to where the puck is going. That's Shannon.
Mhm.
She knew where you were going. And as a result of her knowing where you were going, she understood that you could not only do the job of heading B2B marketing, but that you could just excel at it. I'll give another really quick 3 examples that are an indication of the foresight and almost cultural marketing business clairvoyance of our girl Shannon Watkins. One, when Aflac got into college football, we could have identified any celebrity, player, coach, whomever. Shannon wanted Nick Saban. Now, at that time, he was not considered, at the time of the deal, the greatest coach of all time in college football, but he was on his way to being that. And he is that and became that. Shannon Watkins did that deal. Number two, Shannon and I are in a conversation about who do we add now to Coach Nick Saban? Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. This is before. This is Coach Prime at Jackson State.
Right. He wasn't even there yet.
Not even there yet.
Just
not
announced.
Even there. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Not even there. So she talked to me. She gave me a brief, and she and I go back and forth, and then boom. So that's the second one. Here's the third one. She's at Brand Jordan, and she mentions a name, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, now Shannon, I didn't say this to her at the time, but I was like, Shannon, you my girl. You my girl now, and I know you see things. And when you see things, I see things, but I don't see this thing. Okay, this is what I was thinking. Cut 2 years later, this person, this young lady, goes on to be in movies and gets awarded a Golden Globe, and then Teyana Taylor, like no one that I knew in marketing 4 years ago was saying, I think this Teyana Taylor woman who occasionally drops a record or two here or there is going to be one of the baddest talents in the game in Hollywood. What nobody thinking that? Shannon Watkins was. So I say all of that to say, Lacrecia, Shannon saw in you what she saw in Saban, Coach Prime, Teyana Taylor, me, and others. That's what she saw.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what she saw.
She's definitely got a clairvoyant spirit.
He does.
Larry, any more?
No, this is awesome.
So that can I hit the next question?
Please.
Thank you, sir. As you listen to your flowers, the rose petals, like Coming to America being dropped before you at the beginning by Larry, that was like all of the accolades, the W's. This next question has zero to do with any of the W's. No wins. This question has to do with the L's. And the biggest L. What, over the course of your career, is the biggest L that you've taken? And it was because of you, Lacrecia. It was not because, the president said this or the company went this way instead of the other. This is on you. And most importantly, what did you learn from said L?
So we're going to keep talking about Miss Shannon Watkins because while she absolutely saw my talent, she also trained me up in a really powerful way. And I remember my very first budget meeting. Now, Shannon will get on a call and tell you, oh, I'm not good with numbers. She calls it Shannon math.
Yeah.
And to be clear, that is not, she is tracking all them dollars.
She is tracking
and
every
moving
cent
at a speed that everybody else, ain't nobody else moving.
That's right.
And my very first budget meeting, I had managed budgets before, and I didn't even have a big budget because this was new for B2B. But she had a process for how we went through it. I think it was very much like the way they learn at Coca-Cola, like how you do your budget management meetings. And I was not ready. She was asking me questions. I didn't know the details. I couldn't connect all the dots. Like I just sort of knew sort of like summary level what these numbers were. I couldn't, because in those meetings you're doing a little bit of horse trading, right? Like she's trying to say, hey, can you give this back to the kitty? Can you do these different things? And I was like, I will never show up to one of these meetings not prepared. And it was a rough 1 hour of time. But as I was like, that next time I joined up with our operations lead, I was like, look, help me get that, because at that point I had been a lawyer. I barely knew how to use Excel.
Hmm.
Right? Like
Right.
I didn't, I could make
Right.
a few things happen on a spreadsheet,
Hmm.
but I really dug in, and that has never happened to me again.
Hmm.
And I have taken that experience and used it as I've led different teams, to really add a layer of people thinking strategically about how we deploying these dollars and
Hmm.
ensuring that things are driving against the goals that we're actually setting, that we're trying to accomplish. And I appreciated that lesson because remember, I was always a top performer. I never really, it was things came easy to me, and that didn't come easy to me. But by the time at Fiserv, I'm managing, $100 million budget, um, pretty much by myself. Because at that point, Shannon trusts me, and we didn't have, I'd make it do what it do.
You went through it. What are you thinking, D?
Two things. When we talk about my girl Shannon, these are hallmarks of hers. What she does is Shannon attacks the problem. She doesn't attack the person. So she was going right after the problem of, and this is something else that Shannon will say, you not ticked and tied. You not ticked. You ain't got it tight and right. Okay, this is what she's said. But she's talking about the problem of the budget, not of the person. So I'm certain that while you concluded, Lacrecia, you could never have a meeting like that again, and you were right. You cannot have two meetings in a row like that with Shannon Watkins. That you cannot do. But she probably also took care not to deflate you, not to diminish
Absolutely.
you, the person. All right. And that's the first thing. Then the second thing, brand nerds, many of you all will know this colloquialism I'm going to say here, because it comes from our community, and some of you will not. But when that happens, and you black, what we say after that is given what she described, you say, bless your heart. Bless your heart, Lucretia. Bless your heart.
You sweet girl, sweet girl.
I've had that feeling where I was just wanting somebody just say, just tell me, just bless my heart, please. Just tell me. All right, that's all I got, Larry. What you got?
Yeah,
brother?
and it's. I mean, the thing that was great was, as a leader, Shannon spent time with me. Like she got me connected with our operations person. Like it wasn't like, I mean, I think these meetings happen maybe like every month. So
Yeah.
like I was prepared.
Yeah.
Because it was a meeting with a bunch of people, right? So
Oh,
it
yeah.
wasn't just
Oh,
like
yeah.
my roasting was happening in front of an audience.
Yeah.
And
Ooh,
so,
we get it.
ooh.
yeah, all my
And
peers.
the audience knows.
All my peers and the audience know because they
Audience knows, and
absolutely.
invariably,
Ooh.
Lucretia, correct me if I'm wrong. It was the audience, not just marketing folks, but there's finance folks. There's
That's right.
there's
That's
all
right.
kinds of different functions in there. And when they see that you don't have your budget shit together, they see opportunities also.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Your
So,
money becomes community money.
yeah.
That's right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing that, Lacrecia. I want to share something for you brand nerds out there. This is deep because especially as you brand nerds that you're trying to fast track yourself to the top. One of the things that doesn't get talked about a lot is budget management. And so,
Yeah.
we talk about it a lot. We know that marketing is much more data driven as it relates to what we do front facing for consumers or in the B2B case for customers. But one of the things that when you grow up in brand management, and Lacrecia didn't, so she had to learn on the fly. But brand nerds, if you are in that assisted position when invariably you're the one running that Excel sheet, or as you're going up, you've got to become the expert in budget. And here's where I'm going here. I knew my budgets, and DC's going to laugh at this. I knew where the shit was hidden that that they weren't going to touch, that I was going to make sure that when it came time to do what I needed to do, what the brand needed to do, I don't want to say what we needed to do, that we had that money. And so I were so adept at the budget management to when you had invariably brand nerds, sometime during a year, it happened, DC probably, what, 90% of the years that we're in, they're coming for some money. They're coming
Yes.
for some money. They're coming to say, hey,
I need you to give it back. We need
that's
some,
right.
everybody got to give some back.
That's right. You started with whatever, we need 10% back. So you can't be thinking about that when they first come to you. You've got to be thinking about that before, like, where's the money I can put aside that when they come for it, I can easily, but make it seem to them like it's painful to me, but it's not painful to me.
That's right, because I really got another stash.
Exactly. And we're not being, I want to be clear. I'm not being nefarious, Brandon, when we're talking about this. This is what's doing, DC and I was talking about this, Lacrecia, what's best for the brand. What's best for the brand. So budget management is one of those untold, unsaid, and dare I say neglected parts of you zooming to the top. Because if you could be a master at budget management, it's going to take you really far in what you need to do your job expertly. So I just wanted to add that part.
And make friends with the finance people.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Like, and DC knows this, like, I'm a master of that. We had a big meeting. We bring all our agents. What did I do? I invited the procurement team.
Yes, we did.
Why? So they can see all my agency partners and feel like they're their friends. Why? So when I send you this statement of work, you push it through because you understand the strategic connection of how all of this works together as an engine. And I'm not having to re-educate and start this process all over again. It becomes so important, especially when you're managing these large brands and you have all these stakeholders, to bring them into that's how I met Shannon. I was her lawyer.
Right.
She started to invite me into conversations, and then I was able to get the bigger picture, which made me more effective as a supporter of that work. And you have to see all the different components of your team, not just through the lens of those who are in marketing. It's really through everybody that supports that function, and you want them to understand it. And it's usually something that's fun and exciting. So it's not hard to get people engaged in that.
Huge ad. Thanks, Lacrecia. You ready for the next one, D?
Let's do it, brother.
Okay. Question 4, Lacrecia, regarding technology and marketing. You have seen a lot. Can you tell us where you think marketers should lean in or best leverage tech, or you can tell us areas that you think they should be leery or simply avoid?
So I actually have some breaking news. Maybe I'll share it.
Breaking news.
We love breaking news.
Let's do some breaking news.
So you obviously have all heard my story and all these pivots that I made. So I've made my latest pivot.
Wow. Okay.
And it is I just stepped into a role. I'm about a month into being the president of a drone technology company.
Wow.
Yeah. So how did I get here?
What's the name of it?
Alpha Drones USA is the name of the company. They provide drone services. They're not manufacturing drones. They are using drones to clean buildings, to do agricultural applications, to do inspections.
Oh, wow.
But one of the coolest areas and it's funny, I literally flew to New Jersey Monday afternoon to see a demo of this, and then I flew back home in the midst of those terrible thunderstorms in Atlanta yesterday to see aerial advertising drone technology.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which is fascinating, right? Like typically people think of, like a digital sign up in the sky. It's on a drone. Right. It's like a LED version of an LED, lamp kind of sign that's got some flexibility in it. There's this new technology that is literally, it's like almost like a fan, but it's spinning. I mean, these crisp images of literally, we were in a baseball stadium and the drone is up in the air with this technology on it, and it looks like an alien. It's like in the darkness, like moving, but like you could an eyeball where you could literally see all the parts of an eyeball,
Oh,
right? Like
wow.
different pieces of imagery, and they can literally project like anything off the internet. So they were able to project a video of a baseball game, right? All
Wow.
in the air, in the sky. And so I'm breaking the news, one, that I've landed in a new role. But there's something around what is coming for our world around drones and robotics and being able to have unmanned aircraft that are able, in terms of creating these experiences. I think as we talk about that experiential piece of what are people experiencing, how are they experiencing brands. And so, like, it was just really cool to see they put different logos up in the sky. If you think about, you can use it like there's uses for you've got a crowd exiting out of a baseball park, all
Yeah.
and the traffic's bad, and now you're putting up a sign that says, "Hey, stop by the Quick Trip, get
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
10%
yeah.
off," right? Like there's all these applications and opportunities where suddenly you can put a billboard effectively right in interesting places and with these really crisp, literally moving images, that it is, I think, going to be a really cool piece of technology and a way that brands can step into some different experiences.
Wow. I'm so glad that
Ah.
you landed something that seems dope. And B, thank you
It's fun.
for going public here. Alpha Drones is very lucky, D, don't you think?
They are incredibly lucky. And I would imagine that as we remember this name, Alpha Drones, it wouldn't surprise me if they aren't now, they're on the way to being pioneers in this space. And we will have heard this announced on Brands, Beats, and Bytes. We're so happy for you, Lacrecia.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Very happy for you. Very happy for you.
Super cool. I'm so
I hadn't really told nobody. Y'all the first ones to hear it.
Thank you. That's
Well,
awesome. We're really
now,
excited.
now everybody gonna hear it.
That's right.
Everybody.
100 countries and more.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we're really, you're going to have to brief us more in more depth as you get more ensconced there, because it sounds really
Yes.
interesting and stuff we need to know.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, Dee, should we go to the next question?
We should. El Boogie, what are you most proud of?
Hmm. I am probably the healthiest and the strongest I've ever sort of been in my life right now in this moment. I would say in the last, you know, 6 to 9 months, I've been on this wellness journey of really like, actually probably more, maybe like a year, like really trying to prioritize my physical health. Part of that is my mortality is smacking me in my face. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I am really proud of being able to make that pivot to really saying something that, like, as a young person, as a black woman who's a mom, who's a daughter, who's a sister, right? And because to be clear, like how I run stuff at work, like I run all parts of my life like that, right? Like I run my family. I run all the things. So that's sort of always been my how I show up, but I haven't always prioritized myself.
Mhm.
And I haven't always taken care of myself or felt like I even had capacity to focus on that. And so the ability to do that in the last 12 to 18 months has been really impactful for me, just how I feel. I didn't even know I could feel this good, especially, at this stage of my life. And it is emblematic though of just like how I pivot, right? Like there's so much power in the pivot and being able to adjust to what's in front of you in DC, like you said, like going towards something,
Yeah.
really leaning into it and stepping into it and finding that power in it that's not just for me because it's not the power. I'm not doing this just for Lacrecia. I'm doing
Right.
it so I can see them babies, go to college and it's to empower all of the people around me. And so I'm really proud of just where I am right now, really having a sense of comfort of, like I said, like how I lead, who I am, what I do, what I don't do, which I'm real
That's key.
clear on.
That's critical.
And just really embracing like how things have to continuously change.
I love that. You know what I'm struck with as you tell that story, those of us who've been privileged to work with you know everything you said is true, that, you care so much, and if you're working with you, you're part of your family. That's just the way you are. I'm struck with when we fly, and the three of us are frequent flyers, and when, we sort of maybe 1% listen to when they're making the announcement, but we've heard it so much where they say that if the oxygen drops, that put it on yourself first and then put it on everyone else. It's the same thing applies here, brand nerds, that if you are like Lacrecia and you are balancing your work and your family and everybody else, but if you don't take care of yourself, there's issues. So you've got to make sure that you've got yourself, which is, by the way, you have the most control of first, and making sure that that's working and working in the most optimal way possible before you can worry about other folks.
Well said, brother. Well said.
All right, D, anything else to add? Should we go to the next section?
Let's do it.
I'm just going to add one thing. I'm proud of you, Lacrecia, for doing that finally, right? To put yourself number one. That's awesome. All right, we're going to the next segment. So what's poppin', D?
What's poppin'?
So, Lacrecia, this is our chance to shout out, shout down, or simply air something happening in and around marketing today that we think is good fodder for discussion. So I think we've got a good one for the three of us to banter about. So I want to read this for you guys. It's about Starbucks, Little Caesars, and ChatGPT. I'm going to read you a couple paragraphs first about Starbucks, and then the same thing applies with Little Caesars.
Okay.
So Starbucks put out a release that said your next drink order is just a chat away, thanks to a collaboration between Starbucks and ChatGPT. Customers can customize and add to their Starbucks card right from the ChatGPT app using @Starbucks, the @moniker in Starbucks. Prompts can, for example, focus on nutrition, such as, quote, I'd like something high in protein and lower in sugar. They can also get whimsical with users uploading a photo and asking, quote, recommend a drink that matches the vibe of my outfit. To try it out, users are instructed to open ChatGPT, add the Starbucks app through the app directory, chat to discover a drink, and then add it to their cart. Orders are completed in the Starbucks app or on starbucks.com. What do you all think as I read that to you?
Lacrecia?
So, I'm in a relationship with my ChatGPT. Like,
we all are, by the way.
I talk to him every morning, right? My girlfriend has given hers a name, and I haven't done the voice thing yet, like where he talks to me. Like I still am.
I haven't either.
But like literally, I call. She's like, "Oh, you want to talk to Red?" She calls him Red, and she talks to Red. So, I think the power of this tool. It's like the internet was, right? And the internet very similarly, people were like, what is this internet thing? Like, I'm scared of it. Like, what's it going to do? But I think there's an unlock there. And I think it's cool that, you can be able to say, hey, Starbucks, this is the mood I'm in today. Yeah. This is how I'm feeling. I don't feel well today. Like, what can I order to drink? Like, the power of that, I think, is just really extraordinary. I'm not afraid of any of this. My daughters are skeptical because I think they're worried about the environmental impacts, and that is something that is very real, that we all need to be finding what are the solutions to that and really applying some some pressure on that, around what the technology is doing and how it's going to impact our environment. But I think that's pretty cool.
I need to understand the business strategy behind this. I say this because I am conversant in the area of beverage consumption. And there's a strata associated with beverage consumption. And dare I say any business, but for the purposes of this, Starbucks will just keep the beverage consumption. It has to do with users. You can have heavy users, moderate users, light users, or non-users. This is the strata. And the heavy users, these are the people that pound it down. They might be drinking 3-4 different cups of Starbucks coffee a day.
And they're probably on the app, and they're just like, they almost probably have the time down that they're.
And so this is what I mean by brand strategy.
Right.
For the, I believe, heavy users and moderate users of Starbucks and coffee, there's an art to ordering a specific type of coffee.
Mm-hmm. You know this if you've ever been to a Starbucks with DC, by the way.
Yes, yeah. Right. Yeah. You get down to the detail, half this, quarter that, this name, that name. You get all, stop putting my business on the street, Lacrecia. Stop my business on the street. So it's a very specific. I don't think for that user base, this thing works. Because they don't want to make up something. They know what they want. However, if what they're doing at Starbucks is for the light users or non-users to get them into the funnel so that they can become media and heavy users, then I see how this is a viable method. So I would just like to understand the business strategy behind it, but I do like the idea. That's my thought. Larry, your thought.
Yeah, this is great conversation. Let's layer this on. So I think this is a bit of a matrix thing, Dee. You just laid it out, heavy, middle, and sort of light users. Mm-hmm. But then Lacrecia said something, I think in the first sentence when she was talking about this, that she has a relationship with Chet, right? And so I think what they're delving into is tapping into that relationship. Many of us have this relationship. So the heavy user, they've got those. But maybe they can make the medium user that maybe the medium user has it every other day because maybe the person who goes to the office 3 times a week, they only get it on their way to the office, right?
Yeah.
But they've got the relationship with chat, and in the afternoon, they're going, man, I'm dragging, because they have that relationship with chat. Any thoughts to help me pick me up? And they go, well, have you thought about getting a latte, right?
Yeah.
And then that's not something that you would think about because you get coffee on the way to work. You go, oh, that's a great, didn't think about that. So because of the relationship that people are garnering with their Chat GPT, my wife's friend Sherry calls Gemini Gem. That's her relationship.
Nice.
So that's what's happening here. And Little Caesars, they're doing the same thing. Like, I don't know what to eat tonight. I don't want to cook. Oh, why don't you order a pizza? And again, it might not have been top of mind, or maybe it was mine, but then boom, they tap into it. And then they've got the Little Caesars app that you just go to right in chat. It's pretty ingenious if you think about it.
It is. I'll just say this one additional thing. It will be interesting to see the data. We won't, as lay people, see the data, but if we were inside, we see the data as to how many of the requests and engagements on chat are functionally based versus emotionally based. So functionally based is exactly what LT said. I'm dragging. I need a pick me up. That's a functional. But what if someone says, I am feeling incredibly ebullient today. I want a beverage to match that energy. That's a different kind of a request.
Totally.
So I'm curious to see if the data will show the difference in those two domains, if you will.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be interesting to see, Larry, as you were talking, like, okay, like brands starting to kind of, in this way get integrated into ChatGPT, and it becomes an advertising engine, right? And if you are in relationship now, it knows your, things you're talking about, your things you're exploring, all the different pieces, and then you start to suddenly get recommendations tied to advertising dollars. That I think that might get on my nerves a little bit, but as a consumer, but as a
that's a
marketer,
little scurrilous.
That's actually interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, and then this is where all three of our minds work. I'm thinking, as both of you are speaking, well, what's the conversion? So how many chats where, again, let's just use Starbucks. Starbucks gets recommended. How many people actually do say, great idea, and go get it? I wonder what those percentages are too.
That's good.
Right. Oh man, Lacrecia, when we have family like you on our show, it seems like we started 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it does.
This is awesome. So here's we're towards the end of the show here, and I'm going to posit learnings. DC will do the same, and then if you want to share with the brand nerds out there what you've learned from this great conversation, we'd love for you to say that. So I'm going to start first. So I've got 7 great ones, you brand nerds out there. So number 1, you brand nerds out there, how can you be your authentic self and successfully, keyword, shapeshift to the specific environment you are in? I think Lacrecia talked about that eloquently, really eloquently, and it's one of those things that we all have to do to certain degrees at some point. Number 2, if you are in a position outside marketing and you want in, can you find some marketing related projects for you to raise your hand on? It's a great one Lacrecia talked about.
That is
Number
a great
3,
one.
Yeah, it's a great one. Number 3, lawyering and marketing are both about influencing people. Dare I say, if you're a salesperson, you could say the same. So if you are in those areas and you want to make that move to marketing, keep that in mind and how that can play well for you. Number 4, we've said this a lot. DC's brought this up a lot, but we can't say it enough. It's the Wayne Gretzky line that Shannon Watkins does all the time.
Yeah.
Skate to where the puck is going, not where it is. Number 5, those of you who are still single and really looking to fast track your career, as you are evaluating your life partner, keep in mind how she or he can help in your career as well. Number 6, like Shannon, attack the problem, not the person. And lastly, like Lacrecia has done so well, to optimize your career, you got to take care of you. Balance, balance, balance. Those are mine.
Phenomenal, Larry. El Boogie, this has been a treasure for me. When we have family on, I start them thinking, I know this person really well. And then the joy of going through the process and the journey of the podcast, I learn more about my family that I didn't know. And it's just, it brings joy to my heart to learn more about those whom I care about and whom I love. At this part of the program, I attempt to, from just my perspective, Lacrecia, share with you and with the brand nerds what I believe you give us on this planet amongst these 8 billion people that no one else can give to us the way you give it to us. And I do that by listening, not just with my ears, but with my eyes, with my heart. I can even feel sometimes tactile feeling of the words and the stories. And then I attempt to put them all together. So I'm going to try to do that with you now, Lacrecia. In the Get Comfy section when you were talking about your time at Morehouse, and you were fusing my two questions together, being a woman as well as getting into marketing. Like, what was that experience like with you? And you talked about, as Larry mentioned, the shape shifting and being a chameleon. You mentioned that in your early stages of life, as a young shorty, you were bussed from a minority area to a majority area. And so you lived in these two different worlds. And you lived in these two different worlds on the same day. So separated by whatever that bus ride time was.
Right.
Two different worlds. And then when you were talking about Morehouse, and then when you moved into these different areas that were not lawyerly, and then you go to Aflac, but before you accept the job, you make it clear to them you're looking to do more than just lawyerly things, because you tasted some of that at Morehouse. And you said this: a business executive first who happens to know the law. So you got this business executive here, and then you got the law, happen to know the law over there. And then you mentioned, when we ask you the question, the 5 questions, this is about having the most influence on your career. Before you got to Shannon, you mentioned that, law and marketing are not all that dissimilar. You used the word dissimilar. You said both are about influencing people. So you have business, marketing here, law here, and you were able to sort of bring them together by saying influence. And I'm listening to all of this. I'm like, boy, this is very interesting. When you got into your the question of what you're most proud of and your wellness, Larry mentioned it as his section just before this one. You're balancing taking care of Lacrecia versus others. Got these two things. So I'm like, this just keeps coming up. What made it all come together for me, Lacrecia, about you, is when you said that you found yourself, this is before you discovered a different way, before you got to Morehouse. You said you spent a lot of your time negotiating your blackness and your womanness. And that word negotiate is what brought it all together for me. Brand nerds, let me just give you the definition of negotiate. To negotiate is to try to get the best possible outcome while also finding terms the other side can accept. Best possible outcome, but finding the terms, best possible terms, the other side can accept. That is the ability to negotiate. You bring these things together. And then I started to think, who are the best negotiators ever? Like in history, who are some of the best negotiators? And then I thought, who was dealing with two different sides, diametrically opposed, but trying to find a way to influence both to bring them together, negotiating this? Nelson Mandela, Madiba. I'm going to read this now. This is from Harvard. Harvard's program on negotiation describes Mandela as one of history's great negotiators because he combined patience, emotional control, empathy, moral clarity, and pragmatism while negotiating the end of apartheid in South Africa. You, Lacrecia, have patience, emotional control, empathy, moral clarity, and pragmatism. Finally, I'm about to bring this home. A marketer should negotiate their career. You've negotiated your career. You've negotiated all those things that I just went through that you said. You said those. I didn't say those. A marketer should negotiate their career like Mandela negotiated power. Not by being like saying, please give me a seat at the table. Please get me. You talked about your value. You know your value. But by becoming impossible to ignore. And that, Lacrecia, is what you are. You are impossible to ignore. And I think that makes you the Nelson Mandela of the business and brand game.
Oh, I mean, can you put that on a t-shirt for me? I'm just saying. Like, wow. Thank you, DC. That's really, that means a lot. And, you know, this experience, you know, it when you are talking about kind of your journey and your history and answering the questions that you all asked that I think are really great questions, it causes reflection, right? That we don't often get a chance to do. And so this has been really insightful for me, just thinking about my journey and where I am and frankly, where I'm going. But just like the layers that exist, right, in our work experiences and who we are as people, in our family experiences, and you know, I love both of you so much, and now Jade is part of the family.
Yes.
And you know, it is really exciting what you're doing, because that next generation of leaders, the current generation of leaders, we all need to have these moments of pouring into us perspective. One of my, you know, there's a study from MIT about how perspective is really 95% of intelligence.
Oh, wow.
And so I always say to my kids, like, when you're stuck, just go get a different perspective. Like, just change one thing and it'll help you see things differently and things that you couldn't see. And that's the power of what you're doing, is bringing perspective to people in an easily consumable way. And I hope people are able to take it and really harness it and use it to help and empower somebody else. So thank you.
This was so much fun. And before we read the close, we are thrilled that you shared the news about being president of Alpha Drones, and they are really lucky. This is going to be awesome for both they and you. So brand nerds out there, we so appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening to Brands, Beats, and Bytes. The executive producers of Brands, Beats, and Bytes are Jeff Sherrill, Daryl D.C. Cobb, and Larry Taman, Jade Tate, and Tom Dioro.
The Podfather.
Yes, and if you do like this podcast, please subscribe and share. And for those on Apple Podcasts, if you are so inclined, we love those excellent reviews. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we look forward to next time, where we will have more insightful and enlightening talk about marketing.